construct the masonry units, what are the standards of materials as well as configuration in order to build a masonry building? First thing is burnt brick. Brick have different compressive strength and different grade of bricks are available. Third class brick, second class, first class bricks are there. If you check the compressive strength of a brick, it might be 2.5, 1.5 Newton per mm square is also available in market. 3.5 Newton per mm square of strength. You should use that for construction. Now, next one is mortar. You can use the mortar for plastering after brick masonry or for binding the bricks. The cement mortar should not be leaner than 1:3. Minimum cover of 10 mm is required. So this is for masonry. After making the brickwork, you should use plastering thickness. At least 10 mm of plastering is required. Generally, plastering will be 12 mm and it should not be going below this case. Or if you are using cement concrete, grade should be M20. This cement concrete is not for RCC structure. This is for masonry units. Why? Because you need 3 bands. When you are looking into previous class, what we have discussed, if you want to prevent earthquake for load bearing structure, what are the 3 things you should do? Plinth band. Plinth band is at the level of floor, you should provide the beam, and lintel band. Lintel band is at the level of lintel, you should provide beams, and third thing is roof band. At the level of roof, 3 bands are required. So, the similar way you should make the construction. For that, you should use a concrete of what grade? M20, not less than that. Minimum clear cover of 15 mm or diameter of bar, whichever is more. If you are using 12 mm diameter, you can provide 15 mm cover. If you are using 16 mm diameter, what should be your cover? 16 mm only. It should not go below 15 mm so as to achieve good bond and corrosion resistance. For these 3 bands, you should use M20 grade concrete. Reinforced masonry shall not build greater than 15 meter. G plus 3, ground story plus 3 story you can construct. So you should not build more than that. If you are using framed structure, you can construct 5 story or 7 story. Our college building is what kind of structure? Framed structure. You have columns and beams. Without beam and column, how many stories should be constructed? G plus 3 only. You should not go more than G plus 3. That is 15 meter. Why they have said 15 meter is, assume from the ground you will be having a plinth level of 1 meter. Rest of the 14 meters is the 3 floors, ground floor plus 3 floor. So totally 15 meter, in no case or maximum 4 stories. We measured from the mean ground level to the roof slab or ridge level. The bearing wall in both directions shall be straight and symmetrical in plan as far as possible. The walls which you construct should be with respect to the plumb. In the masonry units, they have classified into 4 classes: A, B, C, D, E. Class A will not be available. Why? Class A is respective to zone 1. In earthquake resistant structure, how many zones are there? Zone 1 to zone 5. So zone 1 has been eliminated commonly, so you will be having zone 2, 3, 4 and 5. So 4 zones will be there. The same way, building category will also be B, C, D and E. So A will be missing. Why? A represents zone 1. Grade of mortar which should be used is minimum compressive strength for 28 days is 7.5 Newton per mm square. At zone 5, the mortar strength should not be at least 7.5 Newton per mm square of compressive strength. One part of cement, this part is known as limestone and this part is called sand. This for zone 4, it should be 5 Newton per mm square. For zone 3, it should be 3 Newton per mm square and zone 2 is 1.5 Newton per mm square. Opening in bearing wall. What is opening is how many doors and windows you can provide in an earthquake resistant structure. Why? Because too much of opening. If you have two windows here, you can change the size of window, and can you introduce another window here? Yes, you can do. But what happens during the earthquake? They have given the dimension of opening of piers and recommendations. If you follow these dimensions during the earthquake, you can see this kind of failure will not happen. Can you observe this failure? Wherever you have openings, at those parts you have the brick. See, this is a window, and above the window you have the brickwork, and at the sides you have the brickwork. Can you see all the failure which occurred will be at the openings? Here you can see an opening and crack above the opening. And it is very important that if you have a pure wall, this is a pure wall which is not having any opening, it has not been crushed during the earthquake. Wherever you find these kind of openings, there you can find the structure gets demolished here. So, if you follow these dimensions, this is called height of the door, and this is called B5. What is B5 is? This is the corner of your plan. From this corner, at least you should provide B5 distance. What is B5 distance? First, you have distance B5 from inside the corner of house. From the corner, you should have at least 230 mm of distance. In case of category C and category DE case. What is category C? One is called A category. Zone 2 is called B. Zone 3 is C. If you are building the construction in zone 3, you have to use at least how much mm? 230 mm from the corner. What is B? Zone 2. Zone 2 is Bangalore. If you construct in Bangalore, you can have the door like this. From the corner of the wall, you can start immediately. If you are located in zone 3, you should provide 230 mm. If you are in zone 4 or 5, how much it should be left? 450 mm should be left. From that corner, then you should start the construction of door. The same way, it is given B1. What should be the total width provided? Ventilator. In the last, you have ventilator. Ventilator at least should have an opening of how much? 900 mm. This is called ventilator distance. Ventilator should be at a distance of 900 mm for all the cases. So total length of opening is, see, for a length of wall, take this as total length. How many openings you have? One door and two windows are available here. So what is the total distance? B1, B2, B3. So L1 minus B1, B2, B3. So if you subtract this opening, you will be getting the net distance. So this is the second case. For a total length of opening ratio, B1 plus B2 plus B3. So these are the distance. Or B6 and B2 shall not be less than 0.6. If you are adding all this, L1 is 3 distance, at least you should have how much? 0.6. For the zone 3, you should have 0.55, and for this zone, you should have 0.5. This is called ratio. What do you mean by ratio? You have to divide. Like that, what should be the distance between two windows should be taken here. This is B4. And B4 distance they have given. Pier width between consecutive opening should be 340 mm. So what will be the distance between those two windows? You say it. At least 1.5 meter, isn't it? So as per the guideline, it has been provided. Here you check it. What will be the distance? 1 meter, isn't it? At least 1 meter will be there between the two windows. So what is the minimum condition? 340 mm. So 340 mm is 0.34 meter, that's all. So at least you should have at 0.34 at zone 2, zone 3 is 0.45 and zone 5 is 0.56. So you have a well sufficient distance between two openings. This is the distance. It is not only providing reinforcement, it is providing how much opening you are providing in a particular length. What should be the width, height of your opening, what should be the grade, everything, each and every one I will tell you one by one. If this is to be followed, your performance during and after the earthquake will be much better. And you can observe B4 here. B4 is also distance. In no case within 1 feet you should not have the another opening. Note, 4-story buildings are not allowed for category E. If you are constructing a 4-story building, you should not use the category E. Why? Because the 4-story building, if too much of opening is there, there is a possibility of collapse. Do you have ductility in brick masonry? You are not even using reinforcement. All are only bricks and mortar. What happens? Sudden crushing will happen. Table 2, building categories for earthquake resistant features. If you are having importance factor 1, seismic zone 2, 3, 4 and 5. For these 4 zones, you should use category B, C, D, E. Now, if your building is having importance factor of 1.5, what are those structures? School buildings, fire station, hospitals, telecommunication structure, police station. It is coming under category 1.5. So if you are coming under importance factor 1.5, what should be the category of building? Should be C, D or E. You don't have A, B, these two categories are eliminated. Only C, D, E categories are there. So according to the importance factor, you should select the building. If you are designing a structure, a masonry unit, first you should check table 2. What is your structure you are building? Either you are building residential house, then go for importance factor 1. If you are building in Mysore, Mandya or Bangalore, you should check the zone 2. At zone 2, your building category is B. Now, after checking that you are going to construct a category B of a structure, you should look into this figure. What should be the opening, how many openings should be provided, and the sizes has to be decided. So, these are all coming under design aspect. And you can see the joints. Wherever you are using joint, if you are making a joint at one layer, next layer you should not have a joint. It should be at center. And third layer you might have the joint. So in opposite layer you should provide these joints. It should not be in a straight line. So you have this guideline here at the corners. And at the intermediate parts you are having the joints. Note that at one layer if you are not providing joint, next layer you can provide joint. One after the other. Category A is now deducted as zone 1 does not exist anymore. Now how to strengthen at this junction? This is a window. In this window how you can strengthen is strengthening around opening. You can check that. Can you see the reinforcement bar at the length and at all the sides you should provide concreting. This is what is given here. The jam reinforcement has to be provided at all the openings. These are all brickwork. And the distance shall be, if you are stretching any reinforcement, it should go for development length. What is the development length? Is 40 times diameter. The same way you provide in the reinforcement. If you are using 12 mm dia bar, what is 40 into 12? 480 mm of distance is required. You can stretch the rod here and it should go inside up to 480 mm at both the sides. So up to here you should provide. Note that at the top you can have this type of open stirrups. This is called not closed stirrup. The bottom rod can go and it can be a open stirrup type. So you have to cast a concrete. This is a lintel concrete. The rod has to join with the lintel concrete. So this is the way to strengthen around the joint. Now, strengthening arrangement recommendation for rectangular masonry unit. Here, all the datas and categories is given here. How to strengthen your masonry building is, if you are falling in category B, Bangalore zone, number of stories. If you are building G plus 3, this for 4th story, G plus 3, strengthening to be provided for all stories is A, B, C, F, G, where A is what? Masonry mortar. If you are building in Bangalore, what work you should check? Check the mortar case. What is the minimum ratio of mortar? 1:3. You should provide first case. A is called mortar. B should be provided. B is called what? Lintel band. Lintel band is, you should provide, this is called lintel band. You should provide the, here you have opening, and at all the opening you will be having lintel. Lintel band is what? All the lintels should be connected. So throughout the length, this band should be there. This is called a lintel band. And above that you have another band. This is called what? Roof band. This is called roof band. What do you mean by roof band? Reinforcement has to be provided and concrete should be applied. So at the roof level, this is called the lintel band and roof band. Okay. Now if you require, you have to provide plinth band also. If you are providing this kind of gable structure, inclined roof is called a gable roof. For a gable roof, you should provide the band like this. This is called gable band. This is constructed by concrete and reinforcement. These are the areas you should provide the gable band. This will be the roof and this is lintel band. The same way you should provide the arrangement for your structure. So this is what is given here. First thing is lean mix. Second one is lintel band should be provided. Third thing is roof band and gable band. Can you now differentiate between these two? Roof band and gable band. This is called roof band for flat story. If you are providing a sloped structure, this is called what? Gable band. This is called gable roof. That is why they are mentioning like that. F. F is called bracing in plan and tie level at the roof. So bracing should be provided, and G is what? Plinth band is necessary. If you are constructing in Bangalore, A, B, C, F, G is required. These categories are required. Now, if you are building in Bhuj, Bhuj is near Gujarat. If you are building in Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, these are all under zone 5. If you are constructing in zone 5, A to H should be provided. All the things should be provided. A to H. What are the additional things are there? Vertical steel at the corners. This is the corner. In the corner you should provide reinforcement. 2 rods has to be provided minimum, and you should make the concrete and then you should construct the masonry unit. This is what given here. Vertical steel at the corners, vertical steel at the jamb. I have said, what do you mean by jamb? Jamb reinforcement is provided at windows. At the windows, all the 4 sides you should provide reinforcement, which is called what? Jamb reinforcement. So it should be provided not in Bangalore. Where you should provide? Zone 5. If you are following at zone 5, you should provide these cases. So in table 5, it is given in detail. If you are in zone 4, zone 3, respective categories, what are the things to be followed is given here. Section and reinforcement of band. The band shall be made of reinforcement. I have said that jamb reinforcement is required, and the plinth band, roof band should be provided. It should have a grade of M15 minimum. and reinforcement brickwork in cement mortar shall not be lean 1:3. Band shall have a full width not less than 75 mm. Above the window you should not have less than 75 mm. More than that you should provide the thickness. And as indicated in table 6. So what is table 6? They have given recommended longitudinal steel in concrete bands. If your span is 5 meter, 6, 7, 8. What is span? Distance between the two supports. If you are under building category B, 2 bars are required. 2 number of 8 mm dia bars. If you are having 5 meter or less, for this case, you have a column and after that you have column. Distance between these two columns is 3.5 meter. So you can have this case. 2 number of 8 mm dia bar is required. So what is the longitudinal steel required for lintel band, roof band and plinth is given here. For respective cases, you are having number of bars and dia of bars. How many bars are required? It is given here. Note that in category E is zone 5. For zone 5, 4 bars are required up to 12 mm. If you are having span of 8 meter, 4 number of bars of 12 mm dia has to be used. Now in coastal areas, the concrete grade shall be M20. Note that. If you are constructing in normal structure is okay. If you are constructing in coastal areas, the grade shall be M20 with a mortar of 1:3. Also, waterproofing admixture is required. Finally, table 7, vertical steel reinforcement in masonry walls and rectangular masonry units. Number of story, if you provide 1, 2, 3 or 4. Why 5 story is not given here? Because masonry unit shall only be constructed for 4 stories. So up to 1 to 4 story is given here. Now, if you are providing 2 stories, what should be the top, bottom? In category D, you have 10 mm dia bars and 12 mm dia bars. At category E, you should use 12 mm and 16 mm dia bars respectively. If you are having G+4 story, that is 4 story, top much should be provided for first story, second, third and top. So they have given with respective to the height. So vertical steel is different and this longitudinal horizontal steel is different. So you can use this number of steel, minimum number of bars and diameter has to be used for constructing the structure.